Welcome in, folks, to our Week 7 edition of our Waiver Wire Must Adds. We're moving off of Week 6, which had a lot of fun names and fun potential with the guys that we talked about. And some case in point, Sean Tucker, he went bonkers. Tyrone Tracy did it again. A lot of fun names in there, the running back position, right? Like, it just shows you how it is. But overall, it was a good week. I'm with my co-host, Jeremy. How you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. I mean, Reddit doesn't like Sean Tucker. We learned that about 30 minutes ago, and it's fair enough. If they don't like Sean Tucker as the number one most added player on Sleeper, 1.7 million ads this week for Sean Tucker, they're certainly not going to like Ernest Johnson as the number 2 ad of the week on Sleeper. But listen, we agree. These guys aren't necessarily the guys you want to kind of blow your entire FAAB load for. That said, could they become something, especially Sean Tucker? It's possible. I mean, there's a wide open situation. I don't know. It could be another Jawan Jennings situation, but this is where we're going to try and sort through today.
Yeah, I agree. And before we jump into those, we might as well talk about the big fish. Going to the big pond, Davante Adams gets traded. Apparently, it's a third-round pick that can become a second-round pick to the Jets. That's what they gave up. Interestingly enough, the Jets ate all of his contract, so all right, that's a fun little nugget. I was reading through Sport Track, and it said that they have a dead cap hit of 0 if they get out after this year. So we'll see how that goes. I'm not sure if that's the case, but if that is the case, it's not a terrible deal for the Jets if they can get out. But overall, what are your first impressions of Davante Adams going to the Jets, and how does it affect that offense, including Mr. Garrett Wilson?
Davante Adams, I think. Let's start there. The first thing we'll talk about is the fact that this guy continues to earn targets. He had 2 games just last year, over 20 targets in a game twice last season. This season, in the 3 games played, 6, 12, and 9. That's with Brock Bowers there. That's with Gardner Minshew at quarterback. So we know that Davante Adams still maintains the ability to be a target vacuum, right? He is the number 1 read in a lot of situations. When he goes to his former quarterback and best friend, Aaron Rodgers, who he joined on the Pat McAfee show today, when he goes and immediately is inserted into the lineup, he's probably the number 1 read in that offense. He's not the best, most athletic wide receiver. He's not the fastest wide receiver. He's probably not the most athletically gifted wide receiver at this stage, but he's going to be the number 1 wide receiver in New York. So let's start there. Do you agree he's the number 1 wide receiver in New York just in terms of like volume and production?
Where I think he gets the boost compared to Garrett Wilson is the end zone and the touchdowns. Like, he's going to basically take Allen Lazard's role and just double. Like, the way I picture this is this highly concentrates around those 2 wide receivers. Like, they're going to be pushing 50% plus target share, those 2 alone. Then you get Breece Hall at like 15. And there's really not much else in that offense. Like, you'll get Lazard still doing his thing. Mike Williams will get traded out. Tyler Conklin will get like 10%. I just think it's going to be back and forth between those 2 guys because Garrett Wilson's a target monster too. And he's just kind of different. So I think his old connection really helps him. Like, they're synced up. They remember all the things they have to do. They don't have to learn these things like they do with Wilson and Rodgers. But yeah, what does it say?
We'll talk about that.
Let's go. The
in
Bills.
A second. We'll talk about that in a second.
This is great. Okay,
but let's keep going. Wait, hang on. We also got Jamie and Mobius in the chat with questions, guys. We'll get to you in between talking about Davante Adams to the Jets and before we get to Amari Cooper to the Bills breaking news. So sorry, Jesse, go ahead. Continue.
No, you're okay. Though I think that these 2 are top 20 wide receivers rest of the season, like the way I look at both of those guys.
Yes.
Because Adams raises the floor of that offense, which they don't like. They were struggling with a lot of easy stuff. That's what they didn't have in this offense. And everything seemed incredibly difficult for the Jets. Every week you watch them, it looks like it's a slog and a challenge for them to march up the field. I think with Adams, he increases the efficiency. So like it helps Rodgers, helps Garrett Wilson, takes the pressure off Garrett Wilson. They both can thrive. So I think overall it helps this entire offense. It raises it up a little bit. So I'm going to be a little bit more bullish on these guys. I know people were kind of lower on Garrett Wilson. I don't think that's really the case. If it's dynasty, he's still like, I know we were talking about this Discord. He's still a buy. Like, you should be targeting Garrett Wilson as a buy. And I don't mind Adams on a contender. Like, I get it. They're 2-4. It could go off the rails, but he's still a good NFL wide receiver. He might not be the peak player he was because he's approaching that age cliff. Like, he's 32, I think, right now. So, but you know what? He can still do it. Hall of Fame wide receivers will go a little bit longer than others. Like we saw Larry Fitzgerald, these guys do their same thing. So I'm not too worried about that. Overall, like I like both those guys. I like what it does for Rodgers. You know what? We'll see what it does. The offensive line is more the concern. Like that's my bigger concern.
Yes.
So
yes.
But from the skill position players, I don't mind it.
But here's the thing too: is they play Pittsburgh next week. Pittsburgh is now without their backup, who's Nick Herbig, their backup pass rusher. So he's out of the game. I think their middle linebacker, their backup middle linebacker, or wherever Zach Frazier plays, he's likely out of the game. Pittsburgh is down bad in their front seven. So that's something to consider as well. Then they get New England, and then the Jets' schedule is money. Look at this schedule if you can see it from the reflection of my ring light here, which I've turned up the brightness and is ridiculous. From week 9 on, Houston, Arizona, Indy, bye, Seattle, Miami, Jacksonville, Los Angeles, and Buffalo. Again, this is what you're buying into when you're buying into the New York Jets. If you are a contender and you're going into a playoff run, I don't care if you're buying Davante Adams. I don't care if you're buying Garrett Wilson. I don't care if you're buying Breece Hall. You're buying into the schedule. You're buying into a Hall of Fame quarterback who's getting healthier by the week. And you're buying into the fact that the Jets are fully leaning into him and letting him do whatever the hell he wants, like fire the head coach and bring in his best friend / number one target in the same week. So really what you need to just understand here is that, yes, Aaron Rodgers is crazy. Yes, the Jets could be a dumpster fire, but they're going to pull it together. They're going to win some of those games. And at the very worst, Aaron Rodgers is going to go down guns blazing. He's proven that is going to be the case. And there's fantasy production to be had. I was talking about going out and acquiring Aaron Rodgers a couple of hours ago with a friend of mine who I co-manage a team with. It's like, we really need a QB2. Look at this schedule. Aaron Rodgers could be a sneaky buy. He's not a sneaky buy anymore with Davante Adams. The price just went up, and it's going to be probably too expensive. But Aaron Rodgers could absolutely go off, in 4-point passing touchdown leagues, 14 and 18 points in the last 2 weeks. Now he gets an still elite wide receiver. So I think it's a big boost for everyone. And like you mentioned, Allen Lazard was there. Goodbye, Allen Lazard. Literally goodbye, Mike Williams. He might be traded. So it's still a condensed target share. Tyler Conklin will be involved, but you got the 2 elite alpha wide receivers, and you got Breece Hall.
Yeah, it's interesting. Aaron Rodgers' price. If you look at Keep Trade Cut, he's quarterback 33 behind Will Levis, Bryce Young, and all those guys. And I'm like, what are we doing here? You got guys that are just going to waste away on your roster. At least Rodgers is playing right. I think he's going to bump up into the Bo Nix range, maybe like where Justin Fields is, like low 20s, that kind of quarterback range where. Yep. With Kirk Cousins, Geno Smith, where it's not going to cost you a first to get him. Like, I don't think that's the market for him, but it's still going to cost you a decent player. Like, if you're a contender and you need a quarterback, you could do worse than going and get Aaron Rodgers. But I would just go find the cheapest of that group of players if it's, Sam Darnold, whatever. Because, like, these odds are all short windows, right? You could go a little bit more expensive with Baker. But, yeah, I don't mind Aaron Rodgers as a contender buy. I think everything's going to look better for them because, like, defense is still good. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Do you want to hit our the new trade that just happened? Do you want to talk about that one?
I do, but let's just say hey to these guys. First of all, Jamie, we appreciate you. Thank you, sir. Yes, Sean Tucker has a tougher matchup this week. I'm stalling because I'm trying to pull up to see who the Bucks are playing this week because I haven't even done my rankings yet. Baltimore. Baltimore is a tough matchup for sure. We know you can throw all over Baltimore, and Baker is going to have a field day with his wide receivers. You wonder who's involved, right? Will Rachaad White play? If Rachaad White plays, will he be 100%? Will he be the number one featured running back in the passing game, or will it be Sean Tucker again, right? How involved will Bucky be? I mean, Sean Tucker, yes, he had cleanup duty, mop-up duty, but I heard a really good point, and I remembered who it was from this week. It was from Matt Waldman. He made the point that Sean Tucker, yes, he was in there in mop-up duty, but it was also closeout duty. It wasn't necessarily this, like, we don't care. We need to salt away the lead, and we need someone who can hang on to the ball and someone who we trust. And Sean Tucker got some serious run in this game. 2 touchdowns. I mean, the RB1 on the week, right? So, yes, these sorts of things are crazy. They fluctuate. Baltimore will be a tougher matchup, but that Baltimore defense has not been great. And because you can pass on them, you can run on them a little bit more as well. So yeah, I just think it's the potential there for Sean Tucker is at least interesting. What do you think about Tucker real quick?
I completely agree. The whole issue with Rachaad White is he's just volume dependent and he's not being efficient at all. Like he's still a good pass catcher. And like for Sean Tucker, he was an okay pass catcher in college. He didn't really do anything like special. He was able to handle volume and like a lot of volume in college, which is a good trait. Like you can be that. It's interesting that he was super efficient in this game in particular. Like he blew the doors off of Bucky. Like Bucky was great. Sean Tucker was out of control good in this game. And I get it, game trip switched and all those fun things, but I'm curious to see how it shakes out. The whole point in buying into Sean Tucker is you're buying into a running back where there's an injury, and we're seeing this with Tyrone Tracy right now. Like if there's a pathway for a guy who's young and efficient and good, they're going to find ways to get him on the field. So we're not saying he's going to be a guy you're automatically going to be starting on him, but he deserves to be on rosters because if this injury lingers longer, like we're seeing it, like he could push Bucky because Bucky's good, but the sad thing, Bucky's limited in what he can do. He's a small back. He's never going to be the goal line back. Like he's not going to do like you really don't want him in pass protection. You don't want him doing those things. So there's a pathway for someone else to play alongside him, even if injury. So like my whole thought process with Sean Tucker is he's basically free. He's at like 0% rostered. So he's available everywhere. And you just go get him and see what happens. Because like JJ Zacharyson said, he had the highest ZAP score of any undrafted running back in his database's history. So that means JJ Zacharyson, like when he did the prospecting on him, he really liked Sean Tucker of everything he did, which is pretty remarkable of all the undrafted running backs that come out. Is better than James Robinson, better than these other guys. And you're seeing that. So I get it. I wasn't the biggest Sean Tucker fan, but like seeing what he did, I know it was the Saints defense they struggled, but like you have to at least be interested to see how that shakes out because we like to act like we know. There's so much we don't know, and we're seeing this play out. Like we're seeing Darius Slayton put up a 30% target share back-to-back weeks. We're seeing all these things shake out. It's just so much uncertainty, right? So you have to be willing to kind of shake up and go with it. So yeah, that was my process with it. So I'm intrigued into that.
And I have so many Sean Tucker bags that are bailed out at least for the moment right now, sitting on my dynasty rosters from 2 weeks ago. I'm gonna do what I can to jettison those for sure. We really want to talk about Amari, but let's quickly go into Jaylen Wright for Mobius. What do we think?
Yeah, I like it. Raheem Mostert is dealing with injuries, like it's not going well for him. Davante has just been like bad. Like the situation's been really just terrible this year for them, but he has not lived up to expectations. So I mean, he's a explosive, bigger back. Like he fits kind of that role, and he's going to be the replacement for Raheem Mostert when he moves on. Like that's going to be the pathway he is. I think he could push them this year. Like if it all shakes out for him, you've seen him. He's he's incredibly explosive. Like him and Achane is just a nightmare for defenses, right? So those two guys. I think he's another guy that if he's available, like you don't have to spend a lot of FAAB on him because he's a backup. People are not going to be spending a lot of money on these guys. Same thing goes for Kamani Goodall. I think those are the two players that are like stashed where like no one's really talking about them, but they have a pathway to be on your roster and actually be in lineups. So like I'm fine taking a shot on Jaylen Wright. If an injury happens, this is what we talk about. Like this is how Vidal's getting on the field because Gus Edwards is on IR, right? So if Mostert Achane goes down, you have a guy you can play in Jaylen Wright. So yeah, I'm fine with it.
Indy, Arizona, Buffalo, the Rams, Las Vegas are the next 5 matchups for for Miami coming off of a bye. Someone's going to eat. Who's it going to be? I don't know. But, it's probably going to be Mostert if healthy. It's probably also going to be Achane if healthy. Yeah. And then it could definitely be Jaylen Wright. Jaylen Wright is the guy that if you're listening to SC and certainly Jesse in the offseason, they were saying draft this guy in the last round of drafts and just hold him. If you are a team that's struggling and looking for wins, you probably don't have him anymore. But if you're a team that started hot, 4-2, 5-1, 6-0, and you have Jaylen Wright stashed, this is why you have Jaylen Wright stashed for right now. You can trade him for something, especially if Achane comes out of the bye and is still not playing. I don't know what the word is on him yet. And of course, we're going to get Wednesday practice report garbage tomorrow. So you won't really know till Thursday. But if he's limited on Thursday after the bye, wheels up on Jaylen Wright for sure.
Yeah. Like these guys in situations, this falls into Blake Corum and why he's in the 0 to 25% range of players you should target. They're injury away. And like they see how teams treat those running backs. Like no one's going to push Blake Corum. He will get all the volume in the world. So like these guys are guys that should be on rosters for the injury scenario because the upside is so much higher than basically anybody else you're getting on waivers. Like I get it. If you're not playing these guys, if you need like starting lineup production, go get Dearness Johnson. He's going to be on the field this week. Like, I totally get it. But if you want a guy for the long play, like, those are the guys you target because if it hits, you come out looking like a juggernaut. So that's my thought process with it. All right. So do we want to hit this Amari Cooper trade? Let's talk about it. Jamie said he found the deal. Browns received a 25 third and a 26 7th round pick. Yeah, it seems like a swap. Cooper's deal is really cheap compared to Davante Adams. Like his contract was significantly less. He was, the Cowboys just sent him for nothing, basically a 6th round pick a few years ago. The Browns signed him before the market went bananas, so they got a good deal on him. And his contract has been kind of a steal the entire process. I think it's interesting with him. It sucks for Keon Coleman, but like Keon Coleman wasn't doing much of really anything. So he massively raises the floor and ceiling for this offense because they needed the next wide receiver to do what Amari Cooper's going to do. So I think he's a really good fit for them. And like you saw it in yesterday's game, like Dalton Kincaid was the only really viable pass catcher in that offense. There wasn't much else going on. So yeah, like without freaking James Cook, and this gets into the Ray Davis thing, like Ray Davis looked awesome. So that's another guy, by the way, if he's on your waiver wires, you got to go get Ray Davis just because he can push Cook and be really good. I saw Nate Ty saying that he thinks he's a better fit for that team, and I actually kind of agree. But like back to Cooper, where is Cooper going to be in your rankings for the rest of the season? Like, is he going to be a top 15-ish wide receiver? Because like all the target share and all that stuff is available. Like he could carve out a significant portion with Josh Allen.
He's Stephon Diggs without the drama. I mean, he's just as talented. But, I mean, if you look at this guy, you can see. I mean, Stephon Diggs is the guy that you wouldn't trust your sister with, according to all the Minnesota Vikings back in the day, right? Amari Cooper is the guy you bring home to dinner. Like, if you've seen Amari Cooper in interviews, he's just, like, totally sauce. It's like Marvin Harrison over here, at least the Marvin Harrison that we thought was Marvin Harrison when he was playing the game. Just a mild-mannered guy, goes about his business, seems to do the right thing. Marvin Harrison now is embroiled in a bunch of other stuff. But the interesting thing here is that Amari Cooper is going to come in, and I think he steps into the Steph Diggs role, and he's 95% Steph Diggs at this point in their respective careers. So I think, without him kind of clamoring on the sidelines for the ball, without him being constantly frustrated from overthrows and underthrows and behind him and in front of him, he's going to eat. And yeah, Amari Cooper is certainly a top 18 wide receiver. I would go as far as to say top 15 wide receiver rest of the season for me. And this is what the Bills needed to do. Interesting that Davante Adams happened and then Amari Cooper immediately happened. I think some of it was market play in terms of, well, what's Adams worth? Because I don't want to give up more than I have to get Cooper, who I probably really want, like you said, because of the contract structure. So, and everybody, I assume, knew that Adams was going to go to New York to play with Aaron Rodgers, especially after Derek Carr went down. So, this was just a waiting game. We saw it happen right away, and Amari's going to eat. The more interesting question I have for you, Jesse, what the hell is going on in Cleveland? I don't think that Jerry Jeudy is all of a sudden viable. Now he's going to be covered by the best corners. This is a problem for him. Deshaun Watson has been the worst quarterback by metrics in the league. And that's saying something when you've been worse than Will Levis and whoever the hell, whoever the hell some of these other teams are rolling out there week after week. But he's been the worst. And we have Kevin Stefanski who's going down with the ship. Regurgitating the Deshaun Watson as our quarterback line week after week. So, Nick Chubb's coming back. Who cares, Jesse? David Njoku? What do we do?
Oh, yeah. So interesting enough, the boost to Brock Bowers is massive. This also is David Njoku because Njoku was already pushing 30% target share. The problem is freaking Deshaun Watson. The hope is that they get Jameis Winston involved. And if that happens, David Njoku is a guy that, there's no competition for target. I know people like Jerry Jeudy, but, Njoku's just better. He does. I get he's coming off the injury, but, he pushed 30% targets. Coming off of the knee injury, it didn't matter. He's clearly the guy in that offense. I really don't see any competition for him. So, yeah, Jamie makes – I mean, you could do Tillman. I would pick him up in Dynasty. But, with a lot of these guys, it's usually – unlike running backs, wide receivers, it doesn't usually just translate to volume. You just don't step in. You still have to earn the targets. So – yeah, I think Judy's a much better bet just because Judy's a capable NFL wide receiver. But yeah, I was already bullish on Njoku. I'm still going to be bullish on Njoku. The issue is similar to Vegas, the offense sucks, and that's the bigger problem. You're not going to get the most touchdown opportunities, and that's kind of the key for these tight ends, right? If they don't get touchdown opportunities, so I have both guys. Like I love Brock Bowers, I love David Njoku. If you can get either one of those guys, I would happily target them because the targets are going to come for those guys.
I just want to read you who is left in the Browns wide receiver room.
It's not good
because it's comical. It's Jerry Jeudy. It's Elijah Moore. Those guys we know. It's Cedric Tillman, as Jamie mentioned, and one other guy. And that other guy is Jamari Thrash. At least we know these guys. There's nobody else left in that wide receiver room. And they traded away their best wide receiver. What are we doing? We had this question that we posed to each other on yesterday's show. Are any Browns offensive weapons viable? I think the answer is unfortunately probably not. I'm not buying into the Nick Chubb hype. I think if you can get good deals on all of these guys, you're selling them, including a Njoku.
Yeah, if you can give me a second for Nick Chubb, he's gone. Like, I'll see you later, Nick Chubb.
Yeah.
I think there's been talk of him getting, like, I know Ray Garver mentions this, talking about he's going to get 25 carries. I don't see that world where that happens because they're going to be down by so much in a lot of these games. Like, the defense keeps them in games, but the offense can't do anything. So I get it with Nick Chubb, but, like, dude, you're banking on a lot of health, a lot of things to still go right. We need to see it. I get it, he's ahead of schedule, but
yeah,
I'm not really willing to, like, put the cart in front of the horse with Nick Chubb. I want to see it. So I picked him up for like dirt cheap in a couple of like dynasty leagues. I'm willing to see, but if anybody wants to pay me a second right now, I'll just cash out on Nick Chubb because it seems like there's a lot of ways this can go wrong for Nick Chubb in that offense. But you know what? Yep. If he's anything similar to J.K. Dobbins, if he's anything close to the player he immensely boosts that offense because like Jerome Ford's clearly not that great of a running back. Deonta Foreman's just a grinder at the goal line. So overall, yeah, it's kind of TBD. It's just unfortunate. We really need Jameis Winston. That's what we really need if we want a shot. Yeah. So, which tells you because he hasn't been starting quarterback in like 5 years. Like, it's clear Jameis Winston is not it either, but at least they'll pass it. Similar to Joe Flacco, right? That's kind of how it works. All right, crazy. Let's jump into what this show is supposed to be about. Our waiver wire targets as we get there. 20 minutes into the show. All right, so let's talk about some of these running backs. We can go over the sleeper list of trending players if you want at the running back position, and then kind of pivot off into our players. So we'll start out with Sean Tucker. What do you think is the best case scenario for Sean Tucker?
We already talked about Sean Tucker. What I'll say is, look, maybe he takes over this backfield. It's possible he becomes the 1A. Maybe Rashad White just hits the bench or, has a prolonged injury and they just see what Sean Tucker can do. I think that's best case. And then he can run away with this job. The thing is, whoever the Bucs running back is to own, you want that guy in the back half of the season. New York Giants in week 12, 13, Carolina Panthers, Vegas, Chargers, Dallas, and Carolina to end the season. The setup for, we're talking about schedules, the setup for the Tampa Bay running back, whoever it happens to be, is absolute gold. The problem is you don't know who it's going to be. That, I think, is why you spend up on Sean Tucker and you grab him just in case it's him. He looked awesome last week. Yes, New Orleans wasn't right. It's the real test is this week against Baltimore, then Atlanta, Kansas City. It's going to get ugly. It's possible somebody picks him up for big, and then week 9 he gets absolutely shut down by Kansas City. Week 10, San Francisco, and somebody drops him headed into his bye, and then you can pick him up for nothing. But I don't know. I'd throw out 20% if I'm a contender just to see if I can get him on the team.
I'd give him a shot. I think if you need points right now, I think Ray Davis is a much better target. We just saw Ray Davis actually go off in a game. And he I wanted to put him. My whole thought process with Ray Davis, and I'll kind of hit on all these guys in the 0-25% here real quick, is I don't think he's taking the job from James Cook because James Cook's the best running back of the starting group of these players. So I'll give you the list of names that I have on this article. We have Ray Davis at 18%. We have Dearness Johnson at 0%. We have Dameon Pierce at 14%. Kamani Vidal at 16%. Jaylen Wright at 21%. And Blake Corum at 22%. Who on that list outside of Sean Tucker would be a guy that you are targeting?
I don't know if I can do it with Vidal. I get Gus Edwards is on IR. That just means he's a J.K. Dobbins inevitable IR stint, unfortunately, away from the starting role here. I just can't get there with him yet. I think, look, if he's a great stash if you have the room, but if you have shallow benches, I'm not doing it. You mentioned another name that has just completed right before Vidal's name.
Here,
I got
I'll
focused
hold
on
this
the
up so you can see
who
it. So
was it?
here's the list of players we have right here. So it was it Dameon Pierce in Houston, Jaylen Wright?
Pierce.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Pierce is an interesting name. I mean, Joe Mixon played and Joe Mixon dominated, and Damian
Mhm.
Pierce still got home with 14 half PPR points.
Yeah.
8 for 76 and a touchdown, and even received a target in the passing game. Look, I know they were well up on the New England Patriots. That's not going to be the case every game, but it might be the case some games. Damian Pierce coming in to close out the games for Houston. I mean, I don't hate that, saving Joe Mixon for the playoffs. Look, I like good players on good offenses with opportunity. Damian Pierce is that. If he's the Tyler Algier, just in a better system, I mean, sign me up.
Yeah. I think that's actually like he's a good player and he's clearly better than Cam Akers and Dore Gumbawale. Like I think he
Yes,
could feel so like if that injury does happen, which is kind of what we're banking on with all of these running backs too, like to be truthful,
for sure.
no, like it's really hard for them to steal the job. And like we see with Joe Mixon, like he looks really good in that offense. So
Crazy.
yeah, and if the injury happens or if it's longer term, which we're dealing with James Cook and a few of these other guys, I think that's good. Since you mentioned Tyler Algier, we'll jump into the 25 to 50% tier. The guy that stands out to me is Ty Chandler because Aaron Jones is dealing with an
Yes.
injury. There's no competition for Ty Chandler. So, like, if Aaron Jones is injured and, like, I think he's still dealing with an injury, like, he's going to get a bunch of work. I know it's not the best matchup in the world. They're playing the Lions this week. But overall, you're getting a starting running back in a game that's going to be projected for like 50 points. So, like, I think he can still get there in the pass catching. A couple of the other guys I listed are Tyler Algier for Atlanta. He's at 40%. Jaylen Warren, who is in I don't know why I play Arizona, but Jaylen Warren's in Pittsburgh. He's at 41%. Justice Hill in Baltimore is at 43%. And Trey Benson in Arizona is at 27%. Is there anyone in that group besides Ty Chandler that looks interesting to you?
Let's just talk about Ty Chandler really quickly.
Okay.
Aaron Jones was on the practice field yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess that's progress. I guess this is what we call news. But again, we're not even going to know anything remotely close to viable for our own use until Thursday's practice reports come out. That said, look, I think they're going to. What is this team? 6-0, Jesse? 5-0?
5-0, they had a bye. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're 5-0. They're not going to rush Aaron Jones back, and they're playing the Lions. So they want Aaron Jones for this game if they can get him. But I think Ty Jones is a nice, viable piece. And if Aaron Jones somehow comes back too early because he wants to play in this game, they really want to beat the Lions in divisional matchup and gets hurt again. I mean, the schedule is really pretty over the next month. The Rams, Indy, Jacksonville, at least for over the next 3 after Detroit. And you could see Aaron Jones take a step back, get fully healthy. Minnesota knows they're probably going to win those games, and Ty Chandler gets some run. So I would love for that scenario to happen. I traded Trey Sermon for Ty Chandler in a contending dynasty league just because somebody needed a win, had Jonathan Taylor, and I was like, give me Ty Chandler. Let's see what happens. Just for this scenario. But yeah, I love Ty Chandler. I think he's a great pick. Do we think 7% is enough to get Chandler?
I think you might need to go 10,
Yeah.
15. I think it's possible depending on your league. If people are tapped in, you're probably gonna need to go more. But if it's like, not a casual league, but a league where people are not familiar with all the backups, like I think you can get by doing 7%. Like, because he's not gonna be the top name because people think Aaron Jones is gonna play. So I think that's a range that's fine. If you really want to get him, I'd go to 10 to 15. But yeah, I'm fine with 7. If you think that's enough, like that's totally fine with me. I don't mind that at all. And outside of Ty Chandler, is there anyone else in that group? Because like obviously Algier is a really good standalone handcuffs. Like Justice Hill, I don't know if it's there. I think Jaylen Warren is a handcuff where if Najee Harris were to get injured, like you're getting a guy with a ton of work. So I think we're kind of banking that from this entire group. And Trey Benson, I think he's just an upside shot. Like I don't see him getting on the field much, but if James Conner's dealt with injuries his entire career, right? If he gets injured, you can see something like that. So that's why he's kind of on that list.
I'm also interested to see what happens with Justice Hill now that Rasheen Ali is back, their rookie pick. I don't think he's someone that's necessarily going to demand to be on the field with his play, but he's someone I think they're just going to want to see what they have in him. Justice Hill, just 2 touches last week against Washington. That should have been a game that he should have come in and had a lot more run. I don't know if he was hurt or what, but Justice Hill at this point, unfortunately, is droppable, even though he gave us a couple of good games there where we didn't play him.
Yeah. I mean, it's the issue with these kind of like, these guys that aren't going to get a lot of work, and that's kind of Justice Hill. He's more of the pass catcher on that offense. Like, very game script dependent, right? Like, they need to be trailing in these games for him to get home, or at least be in situations where they have to play fast. Because outside the 2-minute drill, he's not going to get a lot of work. So, yeah, like, I just think he's more of a floor play than a ceiling play. Even if injury happens, I don't think he's fully taking all the work. But the offense is so good, he can get there. So that's kind of my thought process with that.
Agree.
Now let's jump to the shallow leagues, the 50 to 75%. I really just want to talk about Tyrone Tracy. Tyrone Tracy is available. Like, I'm throwing all my fab at Tyrone Tracy because I think he's one of the few running backs that can actually take over the job over the starter, because we know what Devin Singletary is. He's a fine NFL running back, but he's not a guy that's going to elevate your offense. I think Tracy gives you that potential. So, like, this is one of the rare cases where if you should have got him a couple weeks ago, we've been talking about it for weeks, but if he's still available, go throw money at Tyrone Tracy, because I think he's a guy that you can consistently play and can give you value, because, like, let's be real, that offense needs playmakers, and they're doing pretty good things with it. So, like, I'm fine with it. But I'll mention the other guys in this tier. We have Tank Bigsby is at 72%. Alexander Madison, who, like, I mean, he's going to get work in that offense. 61% is going to get more pass catching work now. Braylon Allen, who's at 57%. Raheem Mostert, who's at 71%. And Antonio Gibson, I know it's ugly, but we're talking about guys in volume situation where, you know, Ramondre might be missing another week. Like, you could talk yourself into that. Is there anyone else in this upper tier of running backs that you're interested in, or is it Tyrone Tracy to the bank?
Yeah, it's Tyrone Tracy. I think Tank Bigsby is an interesting name. Unfortunately, Dearness Johnson came in out of nowhere when ETN went out of the game, and they just trust him more as a pass catcher, I guess, and in pass protection. Even after Bigsby's big game, they only gave him 20% of snaps this week. So I don't know if that was a personnel issue or what. I don't know if it's because, they were in London. They're going to be in London again. But now who knows what's going to happen? Are they going to prep for a game without Travis Etienne? They are playing the Patriots, so that should be a game where, theoretically they're in it.
Yeah,
and they don't have to pass so much instead of getting crushed by the Bears. So, look, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Game script got away from them, but Tank Bigsby should be more involved next week. That said, no, I mean, I'll pick them up for cheap, but I'm not going to spend much fab on any of these guys, I think.
Yeah, like, I think, like, Jamie's talking about Roshan went for 10% in this league. So, yeah, I think you know your league. But, yeah, it's all we're just searching for guys and roles that can play in, like, the median. Like, there's very few guys that you're, like, going for the end of season where it's like, ooh, that hits. So that's why I like a lot of these injury, like, the guys with potential injuries to get there, because that's how it is. All right, let's jump into our wide receivers. So I think there's a lot of interesting wide receivers. We can start out with the guy who's in the 0 to 25%, and that's Mr. Pop Douglas. I think Pop Douglas is a very interesting ad. I dropped him in one of my leagues earlier in the year just because they weren't running freaking personnel to have 3 wide receivers on the field. Now that Drake May's on the field, and the last month, Pop Douglas has had a target share of 26% at the lowest. That's been his lowest in any game. So Pop Douglas is really like New England. Like, he's the guy that I wanted to be Jaylen Polk. We'll see if that happens. He's a rookie. But I think Pop Douglas gives you potential with Drake May in this offense, because Drake May, these rookie wide receivers, they kind of elevate, and he's doing what Jacoby Brissett can't. So what's your kind of takeaway on Demario Douglas, who's at 14% roster in sleeper leagues right now?
Yeah, my only issue with Pop is he has to find the end zone for you to be really happy with his production. Week 3, week 5, and week 6, he had 9 targets in each of those games. He finished as the wide receiver 32, the wide receiver 42, and the wide receiver 10 because he scored. And so Pop Douglas is going to give you 6, just looking at his stats, it's basically 6 catches. It's basically 65 yards, which is basically 10 half PPR points, more or less, close, 9.5. You don't want that from your flex. You're happy with it from your flex, but unless he gets in the end zone, you're not. And so I'm just wondering if he is going to continue to be more of, he is featured. He's been featured. Can Drake May get him in the end zone more? And I don't think so. He's not that guy, right? That guy is Hunter Henry. That guy is Jaylen Polk, or at least it should be. There's a number of other guys. Demario is running out of the slot more. So I'm not interested in him. I'm not going to chase it. I agree he's getting the targets, and it's nice for PPR, but he's just somebody who I'm going to stash in case of bye weeks. So I'm not really going to go crazy for that on the wire.
Yeah, I think he's more of a wide receiver 3. Like, that's the kind of range of player we're talking about. We're not talking about impact wide receiver 1. I think he's a discount version of Josh Downs, is how I look at it. Like, The metrics are
Yes.
kind of similar. He's just a worse player. But he has, the better quarterback, like passer than I like Flacco, but like May has the better passing potential of any of those quarterbacks. So like I like it.
Love it.
I think an interesting guy is Bub Means because Chris Olave is dealing with injury. Rashid Shaheed might be out a long time. They don't have a fucking pass catcher on that team right now. I know he's a rookie. It could absolutely go disaster for you this week on Thursday night. But if you're desperate for a wide receiver, Bub Means is going to be playing all the snaps. He basically came in and took over the role. Like when they lost Chris Olave, she's dealing with it. So like you could do worse than him this week if you need him. There's also Devon Vele, who's at 1%, a guy that people just don't care about. Jordan Whittington's still at 24%. Until Cup or Puka come back, like I like him for getting you at least targets, similar to that. Rashad Bateman, he's back in my life at 17%. Come on, Bateman, stay with me. And the last guy is Jaylen Polk. I'm just targeting the wide receivers in Drake May's offense because this team is going to be down in a lot and passing a lot. So of that list of players, is there anyone else that interests you?
Yeah, I like a lot of those guys. Bub Means, real quick, plays Denver next week. So don't do it.
It's tough.
Don't do it. Wait a few weeks on Bub Means, especially with Spencer Rattler. It's going to be a tough day for Rattler, though he looked pretty good in spurts last week. Devon Vele is a guy who's super interesting to me. He's received 8 and 6 targets in the 2 games that he's played. He's putting up the Pop Douglas production of 5, averaging about 6 for 60 more or less, and not finding the end zone. But I think at least they need to use him, and it's possible that he can see an uptick in targets, and he's going to be a lot cheaper than Pop. So I think I'm going to go after him, target him. New Orleans, not a great matchup, but then he gets Carolina in week 8. If you go out and get him now for free or for $1 FAAB, or just pick him up after waiver priority goes through, I think he's potentially a playable asset in week 8 if you can wait it out in week 7, because against New Orleans, probably not.
Yeah, he is like the world's oldest rookie. He's like 26 years old. So like I get it, but week 1 he had 6 targets. He came back from the injury, 8 targets. Like they need wide receivers. I think to your point, like he can be viable for you. So like I'm on board with that. Here's an interesting one. We'll pile this up. We got offered Devontae Smith for Devontae Adams. Are you doing that in redraft?
Yeah, in redraft, I'm probably not doing that given the schedule that I was showing you earlier. Davante is going to eat all season. Will he be the number 1 on his team? I don't know, but it's going to be close. And, listen, Alan Lazard went 6 for 107, 114 and 1, and Garrett Wilson went 7 or 8 for 107 and 1 last night. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that you can consider and kind of expect most weeks, given the Jets' cupcake schedule down the stretch here. I'm keeping Davante.
Yeah, that's totally fine. I'm with you on that. And then Schultz and Shane and Darnold for Burrow and Madison. Like if this is one QB, this is a ton to play for one quarterback. If this is Dynasty, this completely shifts this deal. But like, I want the Chain, I want the Darnold side and redraft, and Schultz is viable. Like that's fine. The downgrade from Devon Achane to Alexander Madison is massive for me, and I might be holding under priors with him, so I'm fine keeping the Darnold side. Would you pay this for Burrow, or are you going to stay with the Darnold side?
I don't know if this is controversial, but I'm going Sam Darnold over Joe Burrow rest of season.
It's so spicy because Burrow's playing out of his mind right now.
Go.
Like Burrow's playing really, really well too. So there's that.
He is, and they only put up 17 points on where the hell they played, the Giants, right? Who had a really good game. That offensive line is struggling. That defense is struggling, which is nice for fantasy. I'm going Sam Darnold rest of season over Joe Burrow.
Yeah, because I think Burrow's the QB4 right now.
Yeah,
like he's been really good. So I understand the thought process of doing that. Yeah, like I'm just keeping that side because I like the upside attached to Achane. Like I think that makes up the difference on these two quarterbacks. So like that's fine with me. There's issues with Darnold, but I'm not worried about Darnold personally.
Yeah, I have no issues with Darnold. He played a New York Jets team in London, I believe, right? Yep. And it was his only bad game. Previous to that, he was QB 14, 4, 9, and 9. And his schedule lightens up considerably. Detroit's going to be a tough match, but they got 2 weeks to prepare for that. We know their secondary is not great, even though they played great this past week. Rams, Indy, Jacksonville. I mean, their Tennessee or Tennessee after that. So their schedule is really nice. I think Sam Darnold is going to find a groove here. I'm going Sam Darnold over Joe Burrow rest of season.
Hey, I know Sammy ball game's your guy, so you got to roll with it, right? So we'll see how it goes. It's going to be interesting. I like the spiciness. I don't know if I'm there with you, but I do like Sam Darnold. I'm in on him. Let's go to, as we got cut off a little bit, let's go to the medium wide receivers, the guys that are available 26 to 50% of leagues. Juju's my top guy. Like, I get it. Juju is not who he was years ago. He's at 33% rostered. But he stepped in, finally got like up to game script, and they did. And you know, he balled out. He was second in targets on that team. It's funny because it's him and Kelsey bringing it back to like 2018. That's what they're doing with this Chiefs offense. It's like we got these two old guys who are struggling, and I know Juju's not that old, but he has old man knees, so it is what it is. But he's going to be the consistent easy button in a worse version of Rossi Rice. I mean, he saw 24% target share on that offense. If you're going to 24% target share as a wide receiver attached to Patrick Mahomes, I'm just going to have interest in you. So he's my top guy of those. But I'll give you the list of the other guys that I had listed. We have Christian Watson at 42%, Xavier Legette at 41%, Jacoby Myers at 44%, Darius Slayton at 53%, and Alan Lazard at 47%. Is it Juju or is there anyone else you prefer in that list of medium tier guys?
Yeah, it's Juju for me, but I'm going to have to. I don't want to do it. But I'm going to have to go ahead and why am I blanking on his name? Las Vegas.
Oh, Jacoby Myers?
Kobe. I'm blanking on his name because I'm so sad that we jettisoned him for Juju. Couldn't use Juju, jettisoned him, and now both are thriving potentially. Right. Yes. Ridiculous. But hey, at least we got a quarterback, right? So yeah, Jacoby Myers is interesting because we know Brock Bowers is the only game left in town now that Davante Adams has been traded. 9, 10, and 9 targets the last 3 weeks for him. The difference between Jacoby Myers and the other guys we were talking about, like Devon Vele, like I forget the other guy we were talking about. Pop Douglas, one of those guys that was supposed to replace Jacoby Myers, is because Jacoby Myers can score touchdowns. We've seen it time and time again. Now he's going to have to score touchdowns because if you're an offense relying on Alexander Madison to score you touchdowns, that's going to be a problem. The problem with Jacoby Myers is he's inactive. He was inactive in week 6. We don't know what's going on with him injury-wise. He's got an ankle. Is he going to play in week 7? I don't know, but I would buy him now on the cheap, get him off of waivers, and add him to my rosters.
Yes, he's going to be pushing insanely high target share along with Brock Bowers in that offense. It's going to be those two, no one else. Like I like Jacoby Myers. He's a good NFL wide receiver. He gets overshadowed by Davante Adams. Guess what? Davante Adams is no longer in town. Now he deals with potentially the best tight end in the world. It's fine. He will get there and do his. I very much like Jacoby. I just do not like the quarterback situation, so that kind of limits it a little bit. Is there anyone else in that group of middling wide receivers? Like, do you have an interest in Slayton or Legette or Lazard or Watson, or you guys want to move on from that group?
Legette's interesting, but we can move on. I think, he's at end of your bench stash, but I'm not, when are you starting him is the real question. And I think the answer is probably he's a desperation flex most weeks.
Yes, very much so. In very deep leagues, I would say. Do you have Darnold as a top 8 option? I'm assuming you do. Since you
Let's go. Yeah, he's gotta be. I mean, who else is there? Is Joe Flacco the guy who's going to sneak into the top 8? He could.
Goodness gracious.
No, Sam Darnold is got to be top 8.
We are so down bad.
It's not Dak.
It's
not Dak.
Yeah, it's been rough for Dak. It's
not Patrick Mahomes.
I will say Dak is a buy. I think Dak is a buy low. Like, we're so down on Dak right now. I think he's a buy low. But yes, it's not good. Would you trade Amon for Jayden Reed and Debo? Absolutely, I would. Yes. You're giving me a really good starter in Debo. Thing. Like, I think Debo's potentially an upgrade to whoever you're starting. So I don't think it's much of a downgrade from Amon-Ra to Jayden Reed this year. Like, that's where I'm at with Jayden Reed. So I'm super bullish. So I would do that. Yeah, you get Reed side. Yeah, I do that. I get it. Amon-Ra is awesome. I know people seem to be worried about him. I'm not, but Jayden Reed's just dope. No. Like, those are like two, like that type of archetype of player, just like my favorite type of wide receivers. Are just guys that do everything. So yeah, I might be a little bit bullish on it. I don't care. I'll do it. Yeah, like I'm starting Debo over Addison, like Mooney, those guys. Like, yeah, like with Nico out,
Nico is done. So
yeah, you'll get Nico back at some point. You got Drake, who's top 5. Like, this is a really good roster, and Debo boosters it. So yes, I would do that move actually. And then another question we got is, would you trade T and Hopkins for Cooper and Waddle?
Yup. Yes, sir.
Yeah, you have to just be okay with just Waddle dying for a few more weeks and then coming back to life
A few more weeks. Yeah.
until 2 weeks. So the Cooper thing, like, yeah, I'll probably have Cooper ranked above T. Higgins personally, and then Hopkins is just I don't care about Hopkins. Like I don't want to play Hopkins. Like that's just it's a disaster.
It's really the Waddle Hopkins side there. So yeah, give me Waddle.
I'd be fine with that. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So let's move on to our guys and wide receivers that are available in 50 to 75% of the league. These are the guys we don't expect to be available, but if they are, you should smash them. I think it's Josh Downs. Like Josh Downs is the guy by far. He's available in 67.
Yes.
He's rostered in 67% of leagues. He's cooking. I don't care if Anthony Richardson comes back. Like he's going to be.
Nope.
With Pittman's dealing with back injuries, I don't expect Pittman to be a valuable part. AD Mitchell's doing wild horse. Who knows what's going on with AD Mitchell? He needs to figure it out. It needs to slow down for him. The other guys, we have Cortland Sutton, Alan Lazard, Romeo Doubs, Tyler Lockett. Of that group, is there anyone else that interests you, or is it just Josh Downs to the moon? Josh Downs to the moon.
Yeah, love Josh Downs. Josh Downs, again, is the guy who's getting 9 to 10 targets a game, but he is finding the end zone. I don't think he gets much of a downtick when, like you said, Anthony Richardson inevitably comes back, takes over for Joe Flacco. He's still going to have that potential because he's the only game in town, really. He's the only short game presence, and he's good at football. So Josh Downs, they continue to scheme looks up for him. They're going to continue that. He's Jayden Reed light, but he's not that light. It's like pretty close between him and Jayden Reed at this point. You just hope that Anthony Richardson doesn't airmail the football on him. Who were the other names that you mentioned real quick?
They were like Tyler Lockett, Alan Lazard, who that trade is really going to crush Alan Lazard. Cortland Sutton, who's at 69%, and Romeo Doubs is at 51%.
Yeah, Dobbs is an interesting name to me only because I think a lot of people are going to see the box score and they're going to absolutely love Romeo Doubs. You can't bank on this, except you kind of can because he is the red zone threat in that offense, which is crazy. I just think we're going to see I have to look this up. I think the answer is 1, but I'm just going to go ahead and see how many touchdowns Josh Jacobs has scored this year. It's ridiculously low. He has scored 1 touchdown, Josh Jacobs, this year. And he has played all 6 games with a ton of targets and snap share in every one. So Josh Jacobs' TDs are going to regress. He's going to approach 8 touchdowns, which means that those touchdowns have to come from someone. And you know who they're not going to come from? They're not going to come from Jayden Reed. So, I really think Romeo Doubs is not sustainable. I wouldn't waste too much, if any, money of FAAB on him on the waiver wire.
Yeah, I don't mind these guys. It's just not a great list. Like Tyler Lockett, he's still doing his thing. I don't mind him. And the JSN stuff's kind of been up and down. So in good matchups, these guys, you can kind of stream them is the way I look at it. Like I think Cortland Sutton's going to be the most guy getting the most work consistently.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if that's going to translate, but like you saw it last week, he did a ridiculous over the arm, like shoulder catch for a touchdown. Like Cortland Sutton's a good NFL wide receiver. I don't know if he ends up getting traded. I don't think he does because they like Bo Nix and see what he has. So yeah, like if it's not Josh Downs, then yeah, I personally would go after Sutton or Lockett before Doubs. Lazard, you could basically just drop Lazard. Like it's not going to happen as the third wide receiver in that offense. Like it's just a
boom bust.
Yes, this was written before the trade. So sorry, folks. That is what it is. All right. Do you want to go to tight ends? Because there's, I guess, or actually, no, let's do quarterbacks because they're more interesting than tight ends. Tight ends is just a dumpster fire. So let's go to quarterbacks here really quick. The guy, like, I don't even need to look at the list. I know who it is. The guy in the 0 to 25% list of quarterbacks, it's Drake May. Like, he came in against a really good NFL defense, started out slow. Well, like, dude, he set it up where he's good. He's mobile. You see the ability he has on the rushing. Like, I really like Drake May. Like, I think he could be a borderline. This might be spicy top 12 quarterback for your season. I think that's in his range of outcomes. And I know you're like, dude, stop it. Nice. I'm a Patriots fan, but I think that's
I'm trying to like contain the excitement here.
Yeah. So, well, just let it out, baby. He's at 15% rostered. What do you think is going to happen rest of the season with Drake May? Like, are you all in? Like, are you excited for it?
I can't get excited for a Patriots quarterback since the debacle that was Mac Jones. Good Lord, that was so terrible. I'm glad we've figured it out and reset it. This week will be the test, right? Last week he was in Houston. He played very well, but it was his first game. Houston was a little banged up. They didn't really get a chance to adequately prepare for him. There was no real tape on him. and he was announced as the starter like midweek, right? So
Yeah.
Jacksonville now knows what's coming, but this defense is terrible. So if Drake May can shred Jacksonville, I will have a shred of hope for him against the Jets the following week.
Oh, baby.
But yeah, I think he has a good week here. He's in London. I'm going to be seeing him live, which is going to be sweet.
That is interesting.
So yeah, I can't wait to go see that game live. And just to be clear, the Patriots in London, I live pretty close to London. So it's really nice that I'm able to sometimes use a promo code at FF Universe at SeatGeek for $20 off our first order. You can do that. I can maybe do that. I need to look into if I can do that, but you should do that. And now we should do this. Drake May, is he a top 8? Is he a top 15 quarterback for you rest of the season, Jesse?
It's definitely potentially yes. Like it's there. Like what I saw is like it's the flip version of Spencer Rattler. Rattler came out hot, struggled down the stretch. May, it was a lot for him early on. The second half of that game, like he really like came into his own and looked really good. So like, yeah, I liked him a lot as a prospect. Like, we talked about this. Like Drake May was a guy I was like, I get it. Like I know he went to the Patriots. I don't care. Like I'm just betting on the quarterback talent. The first game in, like, dude, he looks so much better than Jacoby Brissett potentially has all year.
So much better.
He gives you the ability to extend plays. He does things. It's going to be very up and down with him, but there's going to be a lot of highs. There's going to be lows. So you kind of meet in the middle with him. And quarterbacks have struggled, so I want to say yes. Like my heart says yes. My head's like, maybe not. But I think he can get you there. I think that on a points per game basis, I think he could be a top 15 quarterback. I think that's in his range of outcomes. So like, I know there's the Bo Nix, and then like I'll list the other guys. There's Andy Dalton, there's Will Levis, there's Spencer Rattler. And sorry, I got low blood sugar here, so is what it is. Tyler Huntley. Those are the guys. Is there anyone else besides Drake May that you're interested in this 0 to 25% here? Okay.
Yeah. No, we can move on.
Yeah, I'd say it's just if you need to stream him, you stream him in good matchups. Like you do that with Dalton or you do that with Nix, but Rattler at least has some intrigue. But yeah, we can just move on. All right, so the top guy into the 26 to 50% is a guy that's not going well very much. You're going to see him this week. He's playing Drake May. It's Trevor Lawrence, folks. Yes, it's been rough, but like he's quarterback 20 right now on the season. Like I get it. It has not gone well. The thought process is they are firing this coaching staff. It is going to change. Like I'm just betting on the talent of him, but I'll give you the other guys in this tier and I'll let you tell me who you like more. Justin Herbert's at 44%. Matthew Stafford's at 31%. Daniel Jones is at 28%. Is there anyone in particular that screams the guy that you should go get out of that like middle range of quarterbacks?
Matt Stafford. Matt Stafford is criminally undervalued, but we all know why. It's because his top 2 weapons are hurt, and we don't know when they're coming back. Now, Cooper Kupp may come back. It's not going to happen this week. I heard reports. Oh, he's potentially maybe practicing. No, but you hope that they come back in about what is it, week 7? You hope they come back week 9, week 10. Nice. That both of those guys are fully back and integrated. I don't know, man. It's going to continue to be rough for Stafford until that point, but I like how cheap he is at the moment. And the other guy you mentioned is Daniel Jones. I mean, he's the guy who's going to give you production now if you need it. We know he's been doing it without Malik Neighbors in the game. Malik Neighbors is coming back. I would expect him back this week. I mean, it's possible he sits another week, but I would expect him back this week against Philly. And then the schedule really lines up for them, which is for almost the rest of the season, which is really nice. Daniel Jones should keep this job. The Giants have a potential to win some of these games. Will Daniel Jones keep the job beyond this year? Probably not. But, he could play himself into a better situation and become a Sam Darnold at some point. Right. Daniel Jones hopes to become Sam Darnold. Who would have thought we were saying this this time last year? Ridiculous.
Yeah, the one thing that always works against Stafford is his touchdowns. He doesn't scramble. He's freaking quarterback 33 on the season, 10.9 points per game. Because if he doesn't pass for touchdowns, it kills you. This is the whole thing with Stafford. I like him. I think he's a much better NFL quarterback. When it comes to fantasy, I'm going to personally just target the Bo Nix of the world. These guys that give you the rushing upside, Daniel Jones, I will do that. But yes, if I'm building it, like if I need a quarterback to win me a game in the NFL, oh hell yeah, that's Matthew Stafford. I think he's great. Yep. It's just all the production goes to freaking Kyron Williams. It is what it is right now. Like he gets all the touchdowns.
It is.
Until Puka or until Kupp come back, like I think it's just really difficult for him. So unfortunately, I like him. That's why he's listed. But yeah, I'm not gonna specifically target him. Let's go to the guy who you were just talking about, his top 8 option in the shallow leagues. guys that are available in less than 50% of leagues, and up to 75. It's Sammy ball game. Sam Darnold. You just want to wax poetically about him some more?
Yeah, let me do it real quick. Sam Darnold, we know Aaron Jones is going to come back relatively soon. He's the premium pass catcher in that backfield. So we want Aaron Jones back there in order to have a complete Sam Darnold. But the biggest thing here is that Hawkinson, TJ, I was like blanking on his first name. TJ Hawkinson is coming back. That's going to make this offense even more dynamic. And I'm not betting so much on Sam Darnold as much as I'm betting on Kevin O'Connell. I've been saying this all season. You want elite coaches who can scheme up elite plays. This is Matt LaFleur in Green Bay. This is Kevin O'Connell. You want the guys attached to these guys. This, of course, is Kyle Shanahan. That might all be the same tree. No, yeah. Kevin O'Connell, I think, is Sean McVay tree.
I'm not 100% sure.
Anyway.
Yeah. Not the right time to ask
yeah, it doesn't matter. But what does matter is that Kevin O'Connell is in Minnesota. Minnesota has a nice defense. They're getting plenty of takeaways as well. And Sam Darnold is throwing multiple touchdowns per game, except for that last Jets game. They're going to figure it out. The schedule lightens up. He's going to get back to things. TJ Hawkinson and Aaron Jones coming back. So, wheels up.
Yeah, I would agree. Interesting enough, I had Justin Fields written on this list of guys. He got benched. So, yeah, we're not doing Justin Fields. The other guys are Kirk Cousins, 68%, Geno Smith at 63%, and Caleb Williams at 66%. I know you're a little bearish on Caleb Williams, but similar to Drake May, baby, the rookies are where it's at. I love me some Caleb Williams. I'm going to be doing that. Who of that group, I think I know your answer to this, but who is the other quarterback in that group that you would be targeting?
Well, let's talk about Caleb Williams first because you mentioned his name and your blood sugar drops because you're terribly, terribly concerned about his prospects and it makes you feel bad. Washington, Arizona in the next 2 weeks, those are going to be really good matchups for Caleb Williams. At least they should be. Outside of that, the schedule really tightens up for the Bears. It does not look good for them in the second half of the year. I think Caleb Williams is going to struggle, even though he should progress. We talk about guys connected to good offensive minds. Shane Waldron is not in that category. I'm being pleasant.
He did change the offense. They're slowly working it. Yeah, I know. He's carrying the offense.
He changed the offense against the worst defense in football in Jacksonville Jaguars. Like, let's see it for multiple weeks. But look, Cole Kmet's involvement has been awesome to see. Roma Dunze has been slowly trending up. DJ Moore. I don't know what's going on there, but Keenan Allen went off. So if all of these weapons continue to be available for them, I think Caleb's going to find a way. It's just, I think Shane Waldron holds him back a ton. So I am terribly concerned about that with Caleb. On the other end, go get Geno Smith. He's the man, balling out. Geno is going to crush.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting on the quarterback scoring on a points per game basis. CJ Stroud, quarterback 14. Sam Darnold, quarterback 15. Caleb Williams, quarterback 17. They're all right anchored there, and the situations are so different with all of them. It's just very interesting. But yeah, I love Geno. Like, Geno's a dog. Like, he balls out. It is what it is with those guys. I think if you can get any of those guys in that range, like, I'm fine getting them and going them. But yeah, the most likely available one, Sam Darnold, so that's why he's the top on that list. But I would happily do Caleb Williams. Let's answer some of these questions.
Jesse.
Quickly. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, quick question about Geno Smith. How many games this season has he thrown multiple touchdowns?
Oh, that is actually a good question, and I don't know the answer to it. I'm going to say this is just completely guess. 4 of those games? 0? No, you're serious? It's because
he has thrown 1 touchdown in every single game, but he's putting up yardage. He has elite usage.
Yes.
I think he's averaging, quick math, 38 attempts per game, which is elite. That's what you want. But only 1 touchdown in every game. I think that regresses because of that volume. We saw this with Sam Howell last year, right? The volume leads to elite fantasy production. And, they're going to get it together, figure out this Ben Grubb offense, and they're going to cook.
It's the rushing that's boosting up his scoring. That's what I completely forgot about because he had the massive run for a touchdown. He's had some other good runs. So it makes sense. All right. So before we get to tight ends, and we don't got to spend a lot of time on tight ends because it's tight ends, right? But let's hit some of these. Would you do
Long show.
Yeah, it is a long show. We got a lot of questions on this. We'll try to talk to him. Amari Connor or for Kamara, Davante Adams, which side are you taking?
That's actually really good. What's the status on Connor's injury? Is he still
I don't know.
hurt or just a little hobbled?
I wish I had an answer. I don't know. I'm not sure. So not knowing that, where does that shift you to the other side? Because Kamara's like running back 1 right now, pretty much. So
yeah, I'll probably stay in the flames with Kamara. And like I said, Davante Adams has that elite schedule. Amon-Ra is great. He's just a little more boom bust than he has been in years past because of Jameson Williams. And that defense looked like it was getting better. Hopefully the loss of Aiden Hutchinson isn't too much for them. I'm going to take Kamara and Adams. How about you?
Yeah. I'm going to stick with Amon-Ra and Connor, but I completely get going for Adams. The downgrade from Amon-Ra to Adams is what worries me in that deal. Like that's the thing but like, yeah, you could come out gangbusters from that side. Like I think there's significant upside attached to that because as much as I like Connor, he's going to be injured. Like it kind of is what it is. And that offense has struggled. So I might actually switch my answer on that. Jamie mentions it. Yeah. Josh Jacobs, hasn't had a receiving team in his career yet. It's something that's just the most Bible out of all time. It's going to happen. At one point in his career, he might be 35 when this happens. He will get a receiving touchdown.
Will it?
I mean, it's just unless he's just going to be a true statistical outlier his entire career.
Amazing.
This is a wild question. Do you want to take a stab at this? 6 of the players below. I'm gonna let you kind of do your thing with this one. They need running backs more, and they don't need points immediately. So I know where this leads me immediately. Like I'm shooting them.
Okay. Well, you need to grab Braylon Allen. He is the elite handcuff in the game. We've seen what he can do on his own. If Breece Hall goes down, he's a monster. We've talked about that Jet schedule. He also has standalone value and can be a flex in a pinch if you need him. Along those same lines, and this is what Jesse was talking about, you want to go get Blake Corum. You want to go get Kamani Vidal. These are the guys who have those standalone values. So that's 3 for me. Juju is number 4 for me. You got to go get Juju. He's going to be a weekly flex for you. Potential wide receiver 2, assuming they don't do something crazy and go out and get, I don't even know who's available in the wide receiver market. Romeo Dobbs, who is unhappy in Green Bay. But yeah, Juju should be my 4. Raheem Mostert, man, I'm just betting on the fact that he gets the volume. 18 touches again last week. Carries, by the way. And I think they played a difficult matchup. I can't remember who they played. I think they had a bye last week, so it was 2 weeks ago. So he's going to be fully healthy. They're playing Detroit, so not ideal. But after that, the schedule lightens up. So I'm going to get Mostert, betting on him staying healthy. And then my number 6, who do you think Davis is? Who's Davis?
I think it's Ray Davis. That's my guess. So he goes massively up my board.
Yeah, Ray Davis or Chandler are the guys I have left. I would go Ray Davis there. How about you?
Yeah, I would too. Like, I think if this injury, like, this is not a good turf toe injury for James Cook. Like, yeah, I like Ray Davis a lot. Like, he doesn't have the, because James Cook's going to come back at some point. Like, I think he's going to be, kind of in a role. Like, we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I like him a lot too on that list. So, all right, let's get to our dreaded tight ends and talk about them, fly through them. All right, so it's down bad at tight end position. I'll just say that, particularly in these deeper leagues. I just said Colby Parkinson. He's at 23% rostered. Like, he's coming off a 13 target game. Their previous was their bye. It's going to be a short window with him because we know Puka and Cooper and Cup are coming back, right? But dude, there's tight ends, and I basically just said there's a million garbage tight ends you could grab. The best bet is to stream a tight end in a high-scoring game that's pushing 48, 50 points in that because you just want them to catch touchdowns in this range tight end because you could do a lot of these guys, but man, it's a bad bet. If Hunter Henry's available, I like him too. Hunter Henry, I like the Patriots offense now. It's on Drake May. So yeah, touchdown with that. So go do that. Let's jump to the medium ones. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I wonder if Olakun is back. I would assume probably not. He might not have even made the trip into London, which just opens that up. I wonder if Cade Otton is on your list coming up next.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's talk about Cade Otton next.
Yeah, that'll transition us into the middle tier of guys, and I like Cade Otton. I think he's the routes run god. That's what he does every year. It's trending. Interesting enough, his points per game is almost identical to last year. So it's kind of just we need more touchdowns from Cade Otton. That's what we need. But yeah, if you want to talk about Cade Otton, go for it.
8, 9, 4, and 6 targets over the last month, just like you said. Only the 1 touchdown last week that bailed him out and saved his day. There's going to be a lot more games where Cade Otton has production for you, and it's going to happen this week in Baltimore. I think everybody eats in Baltimore this week. We've seen Baltimore, have that shootout. Was it who do they? Oh, it was Jaden Daniels. They had the shootout with Jaden Daniels last week. They're going to have another shootout with Baker Mayfield this week. Baker is going to go absolutely off. This team cannot cover anybody. And, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, fire him up, Cade Otton. I mean, all of these guys. We don't know who the pass catching running back is. I don't care. Put Cade Otton in your lineups, especially in deep leagues.
Yep, he's the top 16-ish tight end rest of the season. I like Cade Otton. I think he's good. You mentioned Jay Daniels. I think it's interesting enough. His old broken tight end Zach Ertz, who's in the middle tier of guys, who's my highlight for this range. He's at 20% target share, man. I want the tight end connected to Jaden Daniels. I'm just gonna tell you that, straight up, it's that simple of a process. I'm not gonna get too complicated with it. 20% of targets with Jaden Daniels as your quarterback, you could do a lot worse. I think I'm a little less bullish on Tyler Conklin because they just traded for Davante Adams. He's just strictly a touchdown dependent tight end. We mentioned Hunter Henry. It's kind of a similar bet with a rookie quarterback and Drake May. Interestingly enough, you have 2 rookie quarterbacks. And then there's Taysom Hill. If Taysom Hill, whenever he comes back, he's more of a stash. He's going to be an impact player. So I think there's that. Are you in on Zach Ertz? You out on Zach Ertz? Or are you kind of rolling with him?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm in on Zach Ertz. Carolina this week. How can you not be in on Zach Ertz? Right. Question here, Zach Ertz or Hunter Henry? Who are you playing this week? One against Carolina, the other against Jacksonville in London. I'm going Zach Ertz.
Yeah, me too. It's Carolina. Their defense is so atrocious. Points are going to flow in that game. So yeah. I don't mind Hunter Henry though rest of the season. I think he's just solid. These are all back end tight end ones. The floor is kind of capped with those guys, but you know what you're getting out of them. It's fine. I think the one guy in the shallow leagues, Cole Kmet at 72%, which means there's a potential chance he's available in your leagues. The dude's absolutely balling out. His usage really awesome. I mean, since they kind of shifted away from Gerald Everett, he's averaging 16 points per game in the last couple of weeks. He's been awesome. So if you can get Cole Kmet, go get Cole Kmet. I think he's worth well paying up a tight end because there's almost nobody. But I'll give a list of other guys that are in this 50 to 75% range. TJ Hawkinson, who we talked about, I think he's a really good guy to stash until he comes back. Dalton Schultz, I'm not as bullish on Dalton Schultz, but he could do there. His usage was really good. It didn't pay off last week. I expect it to come back this week. You know what? I don't need to keep talking about David Njoku. I freaking love David Njoku. He's going to be 30% target share the rest of the season. It might not work out, but boy, do I love those guys getting targets. And then the last guy on that list is Pat Freiermuth, 73%. You know what? It's a solid bet. With Russell Wilson, we'll see if it works out for him now, the quarterback. But you know what I'm saying? It's there. In that range of tight ends, I guess I'll phrase this question. Are you choosing Cole Kmet? Or are you taking TJ Hawkinson rest of season as your tight end? Because I think that's actually interesting.
TJ Hawkinson rest of season, absolutely. Cole Kmet, I am grabbing now for whatever I can because you can sell him. You should be selling Cole Kmet. Washington and Arizona come up next. That's fine. It's not great, but he was the tight end one. You know what Cole Kmet's coming off of? Indianapolis, Los Angeles Rams, Carolina, and Jacksonville, right? So he's had the murderer's row of amazing matchups, and he's been able to convert and get there in those matchups. 3 touchdowns, something like 280 yards, it looks like, and about 21 receptions. So, I mean, he balled out in the last month. You can sell Cole Kmet, and you can sell somebody on the idea that Cole Kmet is going to continue this rest of the season. He's not. DJ Moore is going to be more involved. Keenan Allen looked good. He's going to continue to be involved. Roma Dunze is going to be more involved than he's been as he progresses. So Cole Kmet for me is a sell, but you can play him in the next couple of weeks.
Oh, yes, you can, baby. We'll fire it up. I think TJ Hawkinson's the safer bet. I don't mind the ceiling shot. Cole Kmet's it's the same thing as George Kittle. It's a crowded room, but he's clearly a good tight end, and I've undersold him. So I don't mind rolling Cole Kmet the rest of the season. So I think actually that's kind of going to wrap up my tight ends. It'll lead us to a question we're getting from Jamie, which he's probably wondering where Aaron's been. Aaron's taking some personal time in the next few months. He's having surgery on his arm. He's not going to be able to do much work with that. So he's kind of taking some time to, get right. He's going to be back at some point. But in the meantime, you're probably not going to see much of Aaron, if any Aaron. next few months, but we just kind of want to give him a heads up. Like, we wish Aaron the best to come back, and he's taking some time, so he'll be back. We just don't. It's TBD on when he officially comes back until when he's in the when he's healed. So that's kind of like why you won't be seeing Aaron on any of the shows the next couple months, right?
Yeah. We all love this game. We all love talking about this game, but it is just a game. Family and health come first. So Aaron will be back when he can. And in the meantime, you just get us ridiculous mugs
right? Yeah, exactly. That's what it is. So I will say this show has gone on far too long. Usually our waiver wire shows are 30 minutes. We're pushing hour 10. We kind of hit some trades. I'm super long-winded. I do apologize. This is just the life of what it is. I stammer due to this. So for Jeremy, for myself, for SC, for Aaron, we want to thank y'all for joining us in week 7 waiver wire ads. Hopefully you can get your guys. But yeah, you know what it is. We'll be doing the shows coming out later on in the week. So yeah, on that, I think we're gonna wrap it up and call it a day. So take care, folks, and get your guys on the waivers.